Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayamudirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer their respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, and to Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, and to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasati of the author. Shrinvatam svakata Krishna, punya shravana kirtana, hridyantastoya badrani, vidunoti suhitsatam. Shri Krishna, who is Paramatma, the super soul within the heart of each living entity, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanse the heart of material desires. The devotee who has developed the Arishir's messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nashta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhakti bhavati naishtaki. By regular hearing of the Bhagavatam, by rendering service to the pure devotee, almost all that is troublesome to the heart is completely destroyed in love of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Okay, thanks for joining. I don't know about you guys, I'm very tired today, but yes, maybe Bhagavatam usually wakes me up, so let's see if we can have that phenomena happen again today. Nata nartaka gandharva Sutama vandina Gayanti chotama shloka Charitanyad bhutani cha Nata, dramatists, Nartaka, dancers, Gandharva, celestial singers, Sutta, professional historians, Magadha, professional genealogists. What is a genealogist? Do they study the
genes?
Genes? Yeah, but I wonder what that meant in Vedic time. Yes. It's the study of family histories and lineages. Yes, it's tracing relationships between individuals through time. So that's very interesting that they're mentioning the genealogists, study family histories and lineages. So the historians, genealogists, and learned speakers all gave their respective contributions.
Just
being inspired. Yeah.
So when you go to the banks of Ganges,
yeah.
So if you are a Hindu, so they have like a big booklet in which, because everyone who comes there, they have to like offer their ashes in the Ganges. Okay, either way they come to Ganga.
Mm-hmm.
So what they have is the list of all the forefathers who have came to them, because this is a book that is transferred from one family to other family,
mm-hmm.
like who provide these services of offering.
Yes.
So they have the list of all your family tree.
Wow.
So if you don't know who your family tree is, they can take your name and where you're born, and they can tell you, okay, your forefather was from this place, and like for thousands of years they have this collection.
Yes, this is very nice. I mean,
so
even
now they have the computer now because they have transferred to database, but they have this long booklet like a library of things.
Yes, this is.
And for every person they can tell.
This is very nice. India, I don't think it's so prominent here, but I can tell you when we bought this house and the other property, that they have a long booklet of where the house was, and they care about that here in the West, not so much where the family was in the ancestry. But this is very good, and this is proper record keeping, and this is the way you can mark. I know in India this is very prominent to kind of understand and glorify one's ancestry and family lineage.
So for my ancestry, I come from Brighu Rishi, okay?
You're a Bhargava, is that what they call it?
No, I'm not sure. My goat is Vats.
Yes.
So it's come from Brighu Maharaj.
That's very nice. There's a very nice pastime of Brighu Muni in the Bhagavatam.
Yeah, I'm not very fond of that already.
What?
He put the leg on the chest of Vishnu.
Yes, he did. But it's no problem actually. It was a good pastime. So like this, he did some interesting things to all of the Guna avatars. So very nice. So that's very nice. So these are the genealogists. They have their profession in preserving and tracing the ancestry of people. So very nice. And learned speakers all gave their respective contributions, being inspired by the superhuman pastimes of the Lord. Thus they proceeded on and on. And Prabhupada is saying, It appears that 5,000 years ago, the society also needed the services of the dramatists, artists, dancers, singers, historians, genealogists, public speakers, etc. Dancers, singers, and dramatic artists mostly hailed from the Shudra community, whereas the learned historians, genealogists, and public speakers hailed from the Brahmana community. All of them belonged to a particular caste, and they became so trained in their respective families. Such dramatists, dancers, singers, historians, genealogists, and public speakers would dwell on the subject of the Lord's superhuman activities in different ages and millenniums, and not on ordinary events, nor were they in chronological order. All the Puranas are historical facts described only in relation with the Supreme Lord in different ages and times, as well as on different planets also. Therefore, we do not find any chronological order. The modern historians, therefore, cannot catch up the link, and thus they unauthoritatively remark that the Puranas are all imaginary stories only. Even 100 years ago in India, all dramatic performances were centered around the superhuman activities of the Supreme Lord. The common people would be verily entertained by the performances of dramas, and yatra parties played wonderfully on the superhuman activities of the Lord. And thus even the illiterate agriculturist would be a participant in the knowledge of Vedic literature, despite a considerable lack of academic qualifications. Therefore, expert players in drama, dancers, singers, speakers, etc. are required for the spiritual enlightenment of the common man. This is very nice, actually, because this is something that Lord Chaitanya exemplified. The genealogists would give account completely of the descendants of a particular family. Even at the present moment, the guides in the pilgrimage sites of India submit a complete account of genealogical tables before a newcomer. This wonderful act sometimes attracts more customers to receive such important information. So before we come, let's Om Jnana. Does anyone want to take this? You know it all already? Do I have to share the screen? If anyone wants to scroll through, you can. It's right here. If not, just do. Today's subject matter is actually Jagannath. Jagannath is the Nath, or the Lord of Jagat, which is the whole universe. Sometimes we can see, and actually you can see this in the Jagannath temple, if I were to try to go, or Michael, or anyone other than a Hindu or Indian, they'll not let you in. For whatever reason, I don't know. But actually, Prabhupada chastised them because they invited him, but he said, I'll not go. And they're exclaiming, why will you not go? Because you will not let my disciples in. And they're arguing, well, they eat this, they do like this. And he said, Jagannath is the Lord of the whole universe. He is not just the Lord of Puri or India or like this. So, and you see that here actually. Look, the prostitutes have a place in Krishna's abode. The genealogists, the historians. It's not that we're all trying to, shave our heads and become Brahmins. And actually in the spiritual world, in this lifetime, it may actually be very good to do that. It may be very good to overcome the modes of ignorance and reach a place where you're solely and wholly doing bhajan unto the Lord. But that's not our eternal position. And you see the devotees of the Lord, when the Lord comes and the devotees are manifested around the Lord, they can all interact with him in very unique ways. Everyone has a very unique position. Just like every one of you has a very unique career and a unique skill set, a unique lineage, ancestry. Everyone has a very unique kind of karmic lot up until this point. So we all have a very unique service to play out in the Lord's pastimes. What that is, that will be revealed. It'll constantly be revealed to us for eternity. We will always find ways to improve our service. That's the way bhakti is. But we will have a better idea of who we are the more spiritual advancement we make. As of right now, we're still trying to understand that, wait, am I really not this thing? I totally think I'm this, So this is kind of, this being the body, the mind, the intelligence, and the false ego that we've adopted in this material world. So anyhow, you see all this here. Everyone has a role. You have... what's really nice, actually, was talking about how every role in society, sometimes we can get a little caste conscious, caste centered. Even in devotional service, I'm a Brahmin now. I do this service. My service is so important. And we minimize other people's services. But actually, for instance, the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata was designed specifically, the pastimes were played out and compiled and written in such a way specifically for the lower castes of society to be able to enjoy and receive spiritual enlightenment. The Vedanta, that's not for them. The Vedanta is very complicated, very philosophical. It's make one fall asleep if you're not qualified to hear it and derive pleasure from it. But in more story form and pastimes and things like this is more pleasing to the common masses of people. That's why there's all these streaming sites. What are they streaming? People are streaming all kinds of things, naughty things, good things. But very popular to stream movies. People like to watch movies, right? Why? Because most of the people at large are, they're the simple, what would be known as the Shudra class, or the simple working class of the world. They don't have very much spiritual information. They don't have any much high philosophy and things like this. So they like a good story. And they like to be inspired by a movie. They like to be inspired by a play or a dramatic performance or so on. So you actually saw that not only Lord Chaitanya used to do this, they used to hold dramas. And that's what they used to do as kids even. Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda were very famous for their abilities to enact dramas. Even Krishna and the Cowherd Boys, they would enact dramas of the Ramayana in their play and things. So this is very popular, actually. Very popular. And now we have even, further forms of entertainment like video games and, I don't know, all kinds of different things that people are doing now. But all these things are valuable, and if they can be incorporated into displaying the wonderful superhuman pastimes of the Lord. So this is what all of the eulogies were. They eulogized the Lord's glories and all his different pastimes. And everyone was able to do it in their own way. You had dramatists, artists, dancers, singers. Look at all this wonderful art we have here. depicting all of the beautiful pastimes of the Lord. We have so many songs. There's so many things that anyone can do to offer to the Lord. But, you have to find your nature, you have to find your ability, you have to find your inspiration. So we're all working on that. But you see, this is there. Ideally, you get as many people interested in the Lord as possible. And then, one person's very good. We already have that here. Like, for instance, we can't, especially now with my wife just birthing a child, we can't, properly make sure the deities are dressed nicely or this and that. So what? We see, Meghna has this artistic ability and she dresses the deities very nicely. So now it's part of her service. Some of you have the ability to cook. Some of you have the ability to sing, and the desire to sing. So in the morning we're playing, and all of a sudden I turn to Tanmay because he likes to sing, and so let him sing. Micah likes to do many of these deity worship and things like that. So it's like that. Whatever anyone has to offer. Piyush is an adventurer. He likes to adventure. So anytime there's an adventure afoot, I say, okay, Piyush, come on, you're the driver. Things like this, like we're going on an adventure today. So everyone has their own unique skill set for the Lord. Ideally we use for the Lord. But everyone is so unique in this world. But everybody is Jagannath. He is the Lord of all. And so you see this in Dwarka, all are present. The prostitutes, the genealogists, the dramatists, the artists, the dancers, the singers, historians, public speakers, etc. These are all from all classes of people, all castes of people. So everyone has something valuable to add to the equation. So let's continue on. Bhagavams tatra bandhunam Puranam anuvartinam Yatha vidhyupasangamya Sarvesham manamadadhe. Just before I read this, I also forgot there was one other part there. It's the chronological order. Prabhupada was talking about how the pastimes aren't always in chronological order. We like to kind of keep everything in chronological order. But in relation of the great histories of time, the only thing that's really so prominent in these Puranas and the Vedas is the different appearances and pastimes of the Lord. Sometimes it may even happen that they can happen in different universes. They can happen in different yugas. But it's not so important when, we actually like to measure everything in the span of time. But time is eternally changing. There's actually only one time in the spiritual world. Do you know what it is? It's now. Now, this past, present, and future. These are demarcations in time, but these are fleeting, and it's just giving you a general inference about when something happened, and you can track progression. But ultimately, in the scheme of things, the time it shifts and it changes, and there's creation, maintenance, and destruction, and a new set of orders is like that. So anyhow, these chronological orders are not so important. What's important is the actual appearance and the activities of the Lord, and the many lessons that one can derive from hearing about the lessons of the Lord. So Prabhupada is he's marking this as well, and even the historians and genealogists, at least in the olden days, they would take this into account, and they weren't so fixed on this exact year and this and tracking. We do that now, but it wasn't so prominent because you're dealing with millions upon millions of years of tracking, whereas our modern tracking system, they can't even understand that. I think maybe now they're discovering that people are older than for instance, the Christian under the kind of Christian rulership of the world. They thought maybe we were 3,400 years old or something like that. Mankind, Adam and Eve, 3,400 years ago or something like this. That was their best estimate. And then over time, The Vedas always said millions upon eternal. Human beings are always there. But in this universe itself, millions upon millions of years ago, humans were there. Our modern scientific advancement artifacts are also finding evidence of human beings, even millions of years ago, even though it's not so popular. But even right now, the general popular consensus of scientists is that human beings are anywhere between 10 to 100,000 years old. They use the Darwin's theory of evolution. Well, we had this prehistoric human who existed at this point, but this is all estimation and actually false. But anyway, they're doing their best. So what can be done? So anyway, the chronological order isn't the most important part in the Lord's pastimes. It's just the Lord's pastimes themselves and the lessons one can derive. So, are you responding to a...
Just a glare.
Okay. So, Bhagavan, Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, Tatra, in that place, Bandhunam, of the friends, Puranam, of the citizens, Anuvartinam, those who approached him to receive and welcome, Yatha Vidhi, as it behooves. Behooves is, I think, like, it's in someone's benefit, but let me just see. It is a duty or responsibility for someone to do something. It is incumbent. What does incumbent mean? So it's needful, obligation, required, right. And yeah.
From behave only behave came.
Maybe. I don't know. Incumbent means
Obligatory.
obligatory. Okay, very good. So it behooves. Upasangamya, going near. Sarvesham, for each and every one. Manam, honor and respects. Adadhe, offer. We forgot what we were doing. Translation. Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, approached them and offered due honor and respect to each and every one of the friends, relatives, citizens, and all others who came to receive and welcome him. Purport. The Supreme Lord, personality of Godhead, is neither impersonal nor an inert object unable to reciprocate the feelings of his devotees. Here the word yatha vidhi, or just as it behooves, is significant. He reciprocates just as it behooves with his different types of admirers and devotees. So whatever the proper relationship is, he will reciprocate just like that, as is obligatory. He follows his own, the Varna ashram system of etiquette, proper, it's called sadachar, proper behavior in all circumstances. We try to do that too. This time of day we try to act in proper behavior. This time of day we try and act in proper behavior. So like that, this role, this person acts like this. This person's our senior, I act like this to them. This person's our junior, I act like this to them. Always out of love and affection. But there's a proper sadachar about how an advanced personality acts, and we're all interested. So the Lord ultimately, he knows all of these things. So just as it behooves with its different types of admirers and devotees. Of course, the pure devotees are of one type only, because they have no other object for service but the Lord. And therefore the Lord also reciprocates with such pure devotees just as it behooves, namely, he is always attentive to all the matters of his pure devotees. There are others who designate him as impersonal, and so the Lord also does not take any personal interest. There is an impersonal way to associate with the Lord. Maybe just like kind of appreciation of this is called Brahman realization, of the spiritual connectivity of all things. And many people, usually don't find theism unless you have at least that realization. So this is actually, and so there's many classes of people all across India who are impersonalists, and they believe in the one Brahman truth. and like this, and they think it's very advanced, and they're right, it is very advanced, but where they're wrong is they think it's the most advanced. Whereas, so it's like, okay, no problem, you know. So, but actually, why? Because they don't have a personal interest in the Lord. The Lord also is like, okay, I will reciprocate accordingly. I will not have a personal interest in you. So they're discovering all of the intricacies of the connectivity of Brahman. But they are, you know, what they'll miss is the personal relationship with the Lord, because they have no interest, actually. If you have an interest in the personal relationship, as Jesus says, seek and you shall find. Ask and you shall receive. All of this is there. However you want to approach the Lord, He will reciprocate. So He's reciprocating with each of His devotees based on their reciprocation with Him. There's a very famous verse in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, and it relates to when Krishna first came to Mathura to kill Kamsa, and how all the people in the crowd of the arena saw Krishna after he killed the Kavila Yapad of an elephant. You've heard of this? He killed this massive elephant, and he broke off its tusk and he beat it with it. And then he walks in there with this giant tusk on his hand, him and Balaram, and he's all bloody, you know, and sweaty because he just beat down this elephant. And everyone who saw him differently. You know, the ladies all saw him as this beautiful, boy, an innocent boy who, you know, is being harassed by this evil king. The wrestlers saw him as like this incredibly powerful adversary. All these different people, they saw him in a different way. The yogis saw him like in an impersonal way. Like so many people saw him in a different way. Actually, even with Jesus in the Bible, this is a little similar, but it's not, I wouldn't say identical. But any language that Jesus spoke, he said he was able to speak in tongues. He would speak in such a way that no matter what language or culture you were from, you were able to understand what he was saying. Yes. So he was...
Telepathically.
Yes, or I don't know, but the way it's spoken in the Bible, they actually understood. They were hearing him. He was able to speak in such a way that no matter what language or culture you're coming from, you would understand. So like that. But the Lord is like that. The Lord is able to reciprocate based on everybody's inclination.
His limbs can interchangeably fulfill their operations.
What's that?
His limbs can interchangeably
Yes,
fulfill
that's exactly what it means. His limbs can interchangeably fill their operations. Everything, he can even, like for instance, it said the Mahavishnu impregnates this universe. We know how to impregnate only one way in this universe, but he impregnates with his glance, with his eyes. It's when we offer prasadam, unless we're really fortunate, the deity often doesn't come down and start, eating. These things have happened before to people with incredible faith. But to us, the honoring is through the glance and the eyes. So this is kind of what it means. The limbs can interchangeably, all of the things. Actually, we even have evidence of this. Those who take psychedelic drugs, for instance, when I used to take these things, I was able to see sounds. It was crazy. See sounds. Some people would claim they could taste colors and like just crazy. Yes. So this.
I have heard stories of people. Their senses talking to them.
Yes, their senses are all kinds of mixed up and all kinds of things. But the Lord can do that. But He's not like crazy on drugs. He's like He has full control over all of these things. So this is very nice. Do you remember did we finish this, or is there?
Behooves after he reciprocates his just as it behooves after that.
No, we read that. There are others who designate him as impersonal, and so the Lord also does not take any personal interest. He satisfies everyone in terms of one's development of spiritual consciousness, and a sample of such reciprocation is exhibited here with his different welcomers. So based on your spiritual consciousness and its development, he will reciprocate with you. What's that verse in Bhagavad Gita? Ye yatamam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So as you spiritually develop and your surrender deepens, then the reciprocation will be there. I'm seeing it with all you boys. Now Krishna he's reciprocating with certain things, but he's waiting for the spiritual development to happen. So now some spiritual development has happened, And he said, okay, now you can handle this next responsibility. No problem. But before he was withholding some things. Why? Because the spiritual development needed to happen. So it will always be like this in our life. Many things have become available to me, and I wanted them much earlier. But I had to spiritually develop to be able to properly utilize these things. So the Lord He teaches us how to do this. Now, for whatever reason, me and my wife wanted a child for years, actually. We were trying, as soon as we got married, we were trying for the child. But, yes, it did not happen until just 4 days ago. And now I'm seeing now, I'm like, wow, thank God the wait was there, because even now I'm not feeling qualified to handle such responsibility. But the Lord, He makes things happen at the perfect time. And on top of that, He all based on one's qualification, you will reciprocate. He will reciprocate with you. So that's why all the religions are so different, but they're really the same. The essence is the same: to understand God, to love Him and serve Him. But the qualifications of all of the different practitioners of each religion are different. So one religion practices like this, one religion practices like this one, because it's all based on qualification. And in each religion has its own unique understanding of the Lord. And so anyhow, let's continue. Prabhavivadana shlesha Kadasparsha smitekshanai Ashvasya chashvapakebhyo Vadaischabi mater vibhu Prava, by bowing his head. Abhivadana, by greeting with words. Ashlesha, embracing. Karasparsha, shaking hands. Smita ikshanai, by a glancing smile. Ashvasya, by encouragement. Cha, and Ashvapakebhya, down to the lowest rank of dog eaters. I saw last night. I saw some Aboriginal tribe. I don't know. It could have been Africa. It could have been Australia. But they were eating dog and things like that, and it was just watching them do it, I was just horrified. I was like, oh my God. I understand why it's such a low rank. It's what? Yes. It was just it just felt so wrong actually. But anyhow. Varai, by benedictions. Cha, also. Abhimatai, as desired by. Vibhu, the Almighty. Translation. It's funny, in the Vedic system, dog eaters are the lowest kind. But in the West, we take that to a new level where we become dog worshippers. So, yes, Prabhupada, he noticed this and he said, instead of serving God, we serve dog. And you see that. I watch every day. People are passing by the house and they have their little bag, and then the dog takes a stool, and then they pick up the stool, and then they're swinging the dog's stool. This is almost like a form of worship. You wouldn't even do this for, it's wild actually. You wouldn't even do this for your boss. You wouldn't do this for anyone. But we do this for dogs, and babies. And babies, I'm doing this for my son now, I've been skirting out of the service pretty good. Somehow always someone else is always getting the cleaning service. But I've done it at least once. And I'll probably have plenty to do.
Just getting started.
Yes, I'm just getting started. But anyhow, this is, very interesting. But anyway, translation. The Almighty Lord greeted everyone present by bowing his head, exchanging greetings, embracing, shaking hands, looking and smiling, giving assurances, and awarding benedictions even to the lowest in rank. And it's mentioned that, even the dog eaters, which would mean that even in Dwarka there are those who are doing what are considered very low activities, that there's a place for that in the Lord's abode, actually. So let's see what Prabhupada said. To receive the Lord Sri Krishna, there were all grades of population, beginning from Vasudeva, Ugrasen, and Gargamuni, the father, grandfather, and teacher, down to the prostitutes and chandalas, who are accustomed to eat dogs. and every one of them was properly greeted by the Lord in terms of rank and position. As pure living entities, all are the separated parts and parcels of the Lord, and thus no one is alien by his eternal relation. Such pure living entities are graded differently in terms of contamination of the modes of material nature. But the Lord is equally affectionate to all his parts and parcels, despite material gradation. He descends only to recall these materialistic living beings back to his kingdom, and intelligent persons take advantage of this facility offered by the personality of Godhead to all living beings. No one is rejected by the Lord from the kingdom of God, and it remains with the living being to accept this or not. So this actually is, there's a little bit of a technicality here that Prabhupada just kind of revealed, because I actually had the question, but he answered it in the purport. Well, Chandalas, dog eaters, how could they have a place in the spiritual world? King, how could you be a murderer, a killer? So actually, he's saying that in this world, pure living, the living entities are graded differently in terms of contamination of the modes of material nature, which would mean in this world is affected by the gunas. Vaikuntha is beyond all of contamination of the modes of nature. So we actually see this, that in this world we will be graded, and the Lord will still reciprocate with us. You see this in every type of religion. In this particular practice that we're doing, there's 4 cardinal rules not to do. Like you would never eat meat, or you would never kill an animal or anything unnecessarily. You would never take intoxication. You ideally, people fall to weakness all the time, but you know that this is a higher principles. You wouldn't fall to illicit sexual activity. All these things. You wouldn't become like a great gambler, a cheater, or someone who runs illicit operations, ideally. But we've seen otherwise too. The devotees act very non-devotee-like, or those claiming to be devotees. But being a devotee is a very high thing, actually. Being actually an ardent follower of the Lord is a very high thing. And if someone can't meet that in this lifetime, they'll look like a devotee but not be a devotee. And so this is a great danger for all of us, actually. So we have to try and be sincere. But anyhow, these are all devotees, actually, and even them seeming to do all of the even something as abominable as eating dogs. They have a way that they can also associate with the Lord. And they're fortunate enough that even though they eat dogs, they're in Dwarkadam and they're associating with the Lord personally, which actually means they're more advanced than we are, because we've done it before too, but as of right now, we're not personally associating with the Lord. At least we can't detect that we are, even though when we are even chanting the holy name and doing the archana worship and all this, we are personally associating, but we can't actually see. People always want to take darshan. Darshan means to see. But actually, we can't really take darshan. We can't actually see the Lord properly because we're contaminated with the material modes. But the real darshan is happening. The Lord is seeing you. Like anytime you are dancing or clapping or singing before the deities, the Lord is seeing, actually. And even when you're not before the deities, He's always seeing everything that we're doing. So, this is the real essence of darshan. You're presenting yourself. That's why we bow with our left side to the Lord. This is the proper way in the Vedic etiquette to present oneself. You're presenting yourself before the Lord, kind of like an offering. Like we put the offering plate there on the altar, like this. And when we bow before the deity, or we bow before the Lord, we're presenting ourselves as like an offering. Take me, like this. So anyhow, to receive the Lord Sri Krishna, there are all grades of population. Vasudeva and Garga Muni, the father, grandfather, and teacher, down to the prostitutes and chandalas, who are accustomed to eat dogs. And every one of them was properly greeted by the Lord in terms of rank and position. As pure living entities, all are the separated parts and parcels of the Lord, and thus no one is alien by his eternal relation. Such pure living entities are graded differently in terms of... did we read all of this? But the Lord is equally affectionate to all his parts and parcels, despite material gradation. He descends only to recall these materialistic living beings back to his kingdom, and intelligent persons take advantage of this facility offered by the personality of Godhead to all living beings. No one is rejected by the Lord from the kingdom of God, and it remains with the living being to accept this or not. So let's read one more, and then we'll finish today. Swayam cha guru bir vipray sadarai stavidar api ashir bir yujamano nyer vandibishcha vishatpuram. Swayam, himself, cha, also, Gurubhi, by elderly relatives, Viprai, by the Brahmanas, Sadarai, with their wives, Slavirai, invalid, Api, also, Ashirbi, by the blessing of, Yujamanaha, being praised by, Anyai, by others, Vandibi, admirers, Cha, and Abhishat, entered Puram, the city. Then the Lord personally entered the city, accompanied by elderly relatives and invalid Brahmins with their wives. Invalid must be like those who can't walk or something like that, or who are like now the invalids of our society. You often see them in wheelchairs and things like this, or some motor chair or something like this, or maybe they need just a cane or something. All offering benedictions and singing the glories of the Lord. Others also praise the glories of the Lord. This is Prabhupada saying the Brahmins in society were never attentive to banking money for future retired life. When they were old invalids, they used to approach the assembly of the kings, and simply by praising the glorious deeds performed by the kings, along with their wives, they would be provided with all necessities of life. Such Brahmins were not, so to speak, sorry. They were not, so to speak, flatterers of the kings, but the kings were actually glorified by their actions, and they were sincerely still more encouraged in pious acts by such Brahmins in a dignified way. Lord Sri Krishna is worthy of all glories, and the praying Brahmins and others were glorified themselves by chanting the glories of the Lord. So this is a nice little tidbit on the how to treat the elderly, how to treat those, especially the Brahmin class. Like a Brahmin, a true Brahmin isn't so much thinking into the future. I got to set up my retirement fund. They're just trying to get by and perform their spiritual activities. They're not at all thinking like, all right, well, I got to bank up and make sure the retirement fund is taken care of and all these things. So naturally, when they're old and unable to do their duties anymore, they need protection. And so it was the duty of the Kshatriyas or the kings or the ruling class to protect them, the state. And so they did. So anyway, you see this as the Brahmins have a place. Even the invalid or the old Brahmins have a place. This is something that's been lost in our culture, is to respect the elderly. We throw in the elderly get old. Like when people are babies, we're so attracted to them. Oh, the baby poops, no problem. I'll clean up the poop, no problem. And like this. But if the old person, they start losing their facilities, and then they're pooping, and they're this like that, then we throw them, go in the nursing home and waste your entire Social Security retirement fund you worked your whole life for now just to pay off the nursing home. And even more, we'll have to shell out even more. So it's actually a very it's a degraded system. It's very much improper. But when my wife's mother and father loses their faculties, when my mother and father lose their faculties, we'll see what how we react, because or even how they react. They may not want. Like for instance, my mom, I'm fairly sure she will definitely not want my help at some point. When they need the help, they'll be like, all right, I think my brothers will be more qualified. And I'm pretty sure my brothers will be of the, say like, oh, you go to the nursing home. Here, we'll set it up, So who knows? Maybe she'll get stuck with me anyway. because I'm maybe the only one who may have this religious conviction. I'm not exactly sure, what my life will look like. But it's ideal to take care of the old, take care of one's relatives and one's parents, and to take care of the Brahmins as well. So if you have facility to do that, and the state has the facility to do that, it should be done. And Krishna's state of Dwarka is exemplifying that. So anyway, these are some nice subject matters covered today. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Thank you guys. Parth, I know you were here for some portion of the class. What's that? Yeah. So what time did you come in last night?
I came early, but I'm very tired.
That's okay.
His body is still recovering from the shock he gave himself.
I'm also my body is very tired.